Why, hello, warriors, and welcome to another edition of the Love Your Life vlog, podcast, or blog, however you're tuning in to me, Susie Barolo, a certified life and wellness coach. I love the work I do because I get to bring the feeling of emotional control and empowerment to moms, women, men, even some lucky teenage girls. So join me today as we look, this whole month we've looked at relationships, one of the pillars of wellness. There are 5 pillars of wellness and relationships is one of them. And all month, as it is February 2018 as I record this, we've focused on love because Valentine's Day falls in February and I thought it would be a good theme and a good pillar to address. This is the final week in February. I'm actually sneaking in with the 4th edition of the blog on the 28th, the last day of the month, to look at the relationship we have with ourselves, which is actually the most important relationship there is. And so I'd like to dig into that today. The 5 components or the 5 pillars of wellness that I spoke about before that impact our overall well-being and wellness are sleep, exercise, fuel, what you're eating, your soul care, and then our relationships. I'm finishing off the month looking at the relationship you have with yourself because it is the most important one. There is no other relationship that affects your wellness more than the relationship you have with yourself. If you don't like yourself, you're less likely to feed yourself food that nourishes and brings joy to your body. If you don't value yourself, you're less likely to carve out time to do the things that bring you joy, your soul care. If you don't think you're worthy, you won't make time for getting healthy sleep, the healing sleep that you need. If you put everyone else's needs before yours in front of your own, you certainly will not be finding time to move your body and exercise. Why not learn to like yourself? Why not learn to value yourself? Finish this month with a commitment to nourish the one relationship that affects all others. You cannot love another person more than you love yourself. So let's dig in. How or where do you start? I like to start with an open mind. First of all, it's very important. A willingness to look at where growth is possible within yourself. To drop your ego, just drop it. We all have places where we can grow, okay? And look at where you can love yourself just a little bit more. Like all relationships, there's always room to grow. We'll never stop being able to love ourselves even just a little more. Whether you've been working with a life coach for years or whether this is your first time learning about this inner relationship stuff, there's room to grow. I promise you that the work you do, learning to love yourself and learning to find the pieces of yourself where you can grow a little more, will exponentially pay off. It'll affect your life in every possible way. The more you love yourself, the better you'll care for yourself, the better you'll feel, the more confident you'll be. The more you know about yourself, your patterns, your triggers, and the way you show up for this world, the better you'll be able to craft a life that you love. Knowledge truly is power in this case. So take that open mind, and here are 2 different places where you could start. Choose either one or both and get started in being a little kinder to yourself today. The first place to look at is your inner voice. Some people call it the inner critic. What do you tell yourself? What is that voice saying in your head? We have 60 to 80,000 thoughts in our head a day. A day! That can make you crazy. What are thoughts? Thoughts are not truths. Okay? Thoughts are sentences that you tell yourself in your head. Often we tell ourselves they're true, like I'm lazy, I'm incompetent, I'm, whatever we want to tell ourselves. We have a lot of them, but they're not necessarily true. Where do these sentences come from? These thoughts in our head? Mostly our past. Our thoughts can be the voices of our parents, our siblings, our teachers, our coworkers, our friends, our colleagues, even our ex-boyfriends. It is important to acknowledge 2 things. Thoughts are not necessarily true, and we get to choose which thoughts to focus on. The thoughts we focus on create the way we feel. They drive our feelings. The way we feel drives the actions we take in our life. The actions we take produce the results we see. As we foster a closer relationship with ourselves, it's very important to be aware of that voice in our head. What is it telling us? What is it saying? How do we feel when we think those thoughts? 96%, truly 96% of what we do during the day is unconscious. We're just acting on old behaviors, listening to old thoughts, doing the same old thing. Think of this step, looking at that inner critic and that inner voice, like shining a flashlight inside of your head. You want to become really conscious of what you're routinely telling yourself. Is that thought true? You can ask yourself, okay, when I tell myself I'm lazy, is that thought true? When I tell myself I can't possibly make enough money to support my family on my own, is that thought true? Where's that voice coming from? Another question you can ask yourself, how do I feel when I think that thought? Or how would I act if I didn't think that thought? It's time to call yourself out on your own BS. Would you talk to someone else the way you talk to yourself in your head? And whose voices are in your head? I had a therapist once tell me that I was allowing my then husband to rent space in my head without paying rent, and I needed to kick him out. He was dictating a lot of what I was doing, and it was not making me happy. Why was I giving him that power? How about you? Who are you allowing to control your day or to drive your decisions and your actions? Why are you allowing possibly your critical mother to still occupy so much of your mental space? Why are you allowing that deranged ex-boyfriend to drive you down into self-doubt and loathing? Choose differently. How? You're already doing it. Truly, yay. By just becoming aware of what you're thinking, bringing consciousness, shining that flashlight on your head, you're becoming the observer of your brain. As soon as you can lift yourself out of your head and sort of see yourself from the outside, view yourself as acting instead of reacting to it, you grow and gain power. Okay? Another thing you can do to amplify that growth, amplify that learning, is use one of my favorite tools, journaling or brain dumping. I call it brain dumping because I want you to dump the contents of your brain out onto paper. They lose their power. Get the thoughts you're thinking in your head out. Look at them. Make yourself aware of what you're thinking. You have 60 to 80,000 thoughts in there. They're just banging around. They're just going to make you sort of crazy. It really brings you power. Get them out on paper. Look at them. What thoughts are driving your feelings? Where are those thoughts coming from? Choose to confront that inner critic. Speak up to it. Stand up for yourself and your goodness. The moment my clients turn from beating themselves up to being a kind observer of their mind, change flows in. Okay? The second area we can look at, the second area you can do is what I'm going to call brain food. Look at what you're feeding your brain. What are you watching on TV? What are you listening to on the radio? What are you reading on social media? Whose voices are you letting into your ear, into your head? Again, like who are you allowing to occupy that precious brain of yours? Friends, coworkers, family members, significant others? What we let into our world directly impacts our health and the health of the relationship we have with ourselves. If we talk to a critical parent every week or even every day on the phone, it will be hard for us to rewire our brain. It's like constantly hearing, you're not good enough, or you'll not, whatever it is, whatever message it is, the more we tell ourselves, the more we're going to believe it. Let's try not to do that. If we can never do anything the right way for our spouse or our boss, that will impact our wellness. You are an adult and you are in charge of the influences that come into your life on a consistent basis. Pay attention. I love Joel Osteen's quote that says, you cannot hang out with negative people and live a positive life. You also cannot listen to negative news, watch negative social media, all the negative, read negative books, watch negative reality TV, and live a positive life. Your brain takes in this information. When you start, so take charge. When you start to pay attention to the thoughts you're thinking, what you're telling yourself about yourself, and what's influencing you around you, growth will occur. You may need to create some boundaries in your personal relationships. You may need to stick up for yourself with others and to yourself. Become more interested in your opinion of yourself than others' opinions of you. What do you think about your actions? What do you think is right? You know, you have the answers inside of you. You know what's best for you. We're always looking outside to see what other people will think and farming out our approval of ourselves to them. True happiness comes when you look internally for it. And that's what I'd like you to start doing. Looking inside of yourself, having a love affair with yourself. You are your most trusted confidant. Surround yourself with support and positive brain food. Okay? So those two areas this week is where I'd like you to look. What are you feeding your brain and what are you telling yourself? What is that critical voice in your head saying? Maybe it's not critical anymore. Maybe you become that kind observer of your brain. Yay! I'd like to leave you with this powerful quote from a book that I chose to highlight this week in my newsletter. If you're not on my newsletter, why not? You're missing out on the fun. Sign up, my website. Okay? Just saying. But it was motivating to me. Let me read it. We live in a culture that profits from women not feeling good enough, not feeling beautiful enough, not feeling thin enough, or not feeling anything enough. That's the quote. We do. We live in that culture. That culture thrives on it. I'm sorry, warriors. It's time to change. For you, for your children, for your community, and for this wonderful world. You are enough. You have always been enough. You will always be enough. You will screw up. You will fall down. You will fail. That's normal. Speaking negatively to yourself holds you back. It keeps you playing small and restricts you from being who you're meant to be in this world. So start today. Start paying attention to what you're telling yourself in your head. Start paying attention to what you're feeding your brain. Become that kind observer of your life. Start questioning the mean things you say to yourself. Start treating yourself like you are your best friend and become your best friend. It's time, warriors. Time to fall in love with yourself, with your brilliance, with your shininess, with your wonderful you. Let's go, warriors. I'll talk to you next week.